Hello everybody and welcome to the second video in our series of videos on the Indian independence movement. As always, we begin with our learning outcomes. So by the end of this presentation, you guys should know why there was a split between the I.N.C party and the Muslim League. Second, you guys should know why Britain were willing to give India independence. And third, you guys should know the tensions and steps that led to the partition plan being adopted. So we saw last time how Gandhi had returned to India in 1915 and brought and developed his ideas of non-cooperation, non-violence and Swadeshi, which was of course the boycotting of British goods. We saw how he was the spiritual leader of the Indian independence movement and how he was associated with the I.N.C party, which was led by this man, Jawaharlal Nehru. So to start today, we're going to go back in time again to explain a major issue in dealing with the question of independence. Now, it's tensions between Muslims and Hindus in the country. So the I.N.C was set up in 1885 as a response to the discrimination that Indians were facing in the British Raj. They were being discriminated against for positions and jobs and stuff like that. So they set up this party to petition for better representation within the country. Well, with the establishment of the I.N.C, the leadership was made up primarily of Hindus. Now, Hindus represented a large portion of society, possibly over about 70% of the entire population were Hindu in India at the time. But there was a massive Muslim population too. And these people felt isolated by the I.N.C. So in 1906, they formed the All India Muslim League. Muhammad al-Jinnah became the leader of the All India Muslim League in 1913, and he would play a crucial role in the partition of India. Now, the Quit India campaign, this took place after World War II, during World War II, and after the war, Britain was in too weak of a position to hold on to the jewel in the crown, as they called India. Britain had been weakened economically by the war and couldn't afford to deal with the civil unrest in India. Another reason as to why they were willing to give India independence is because Japan's victories over British forces in World War II, it also showed that the British could be defeated a lot easier than people had thought before. And finally, pressure also came on Britain from the US, the new superpower. They were pushing Britain to grant India independence. This would help to open up the capitalist potential of that country too. Remember, America was about to embark on the Cold War with communist Soviet Union, and those battle lines were drawn well before the end of World War II even finished. So with these factors to consider, Britain finally began to negotiate with the leaders of India. So the two main politicians involved in these negotiations were Nehru and Jinnah. The Muslims were worried that they would be treated poorly if India was given independence, as they felt the Hindus would dominate political and economic life in the country. Jinnah, who was also pushing for the independence from Britain, he wanted to divide India into two states. He wanted a Hindu state and he wanted a Muslim state. Now, Britain had initially cultivated the split between the Muslims and the Hindus to try to undermine the independence movement, dividing their enemies. But now, as independence was becoming a reality, all negotiations between the Muslims and Hindus to cooperate within a single state broke down. There were massive tensions between them, which had been stirred by the British for years and years. So attempts to establish a federal structure whereby each province could eventually choose to leave the Indian Union failed to convince Jinnah and the Muslims to go into a state, a primarily Hindu state. As this failed, in August of 1946, the Muslims called the General Strike, which is known as the Direct Action Day, to back their claims for a separate state. However, this led to serious rioting, particularly in Calcutta, where hundreds were killed in clashes between the Muslims and Hindus. Other riots broke out in other parts of the country, and it's believed that somewhere around 2,000 people may have been killed in these riots. Gandhi, at this time, desperate to keep India united, he proposed a plan to put the Muslims in charge of India. to give them power in the government if it kept the country united. But again, Jinnah and the Muslims did not accept this. Finally, Britain sent Lord Mountbatten as the final viceroy or king's representative to solve the issue. So Mountbatten believed that the only way Britain could withdraw from India was by implementing the Partition Plan, which would divide the country into two. Gandhi opposed this plan, but Nehru and other members of the I.N.C, who he was close with, convinced him that partition was really the only way to prevent a massive Muslim-Hindu civil war breaking out. Once Gandhi gave his assent, the people of India would be definitely more willing to accept it. So Gandhi went along with the plan. So in 1947, Britain passed the Indian Independence Act, which gave India its independence, but it divided it into two states, a Hindu state known as India and a Muslim state known as Pakistan. Pakistan was divided into West Pakistan and East Pakistan, which will become Bangladesh. We'll be exploring that in our next video. So the idea was to split the states so that war wouldn't happen. However, as we will see in our next video, partition did not mean peace. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. So by now you guys should know why there was a split between the I.N.C and the Muslim League. You guys should know why Britain were willing to give India independence. And finally, you guys should know the tensions and steps that led to the partition plan being adopted. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys got something good from this video.